This podcast is distributed for general informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, accounting, or investment advice. The information, opinions, and views contained herein are our own and may be subject to change at any time without prior notice. All investment strategies and investment involve risk of loss. Any reference in investment, past, or potential performance is not and should not be construed as a recommendation or as a guarantee of any specific outcome or profit.
And now, okay, turn the audio on. Usually helps. So, all right. So basically, I've done a couple of live videos, and I keep forgetting to hit record. But I'm checking now, and I did hit record. So, congratulations, we're in. So, just wanted to kind of go over a couple of things to look at where I think we're sitting with Bitcoin and what I'll be watching in the next um, days, weeks, months to kind of see where we're at. As all of you know, I am still 100% allocated to crypto, and I'm highly disappointed that I did not listen to myself or other people that were in our Discord right up in this range, and we were talking about how things just did not feel right. I think it's this drop from 50 down through here, and ultimately these candles in here, but just the state of crypto in general. And I didn't short this like I should have, and but that's okay. You know, you can't get them all. You know, and I personally got caught up in the hype and the euphoria and everything along those lines. So I'm a little stuffed up today if I sound a little funky, but we'll make it through. So I'm going to go look at obviously bullish side, bearish side. So I'm always trying to look at both. Inherently, I'm bullish in Bitcoin overall long term. But what do I think is going to happen? Is this a top, like a macro top, and are we going to see another bear winter? Um, or are we going to see some new all-time highs? And you know, uh, again, bullish on it. Let's go into the charts and kind of see the higher time frames first. And there's a few things I'm going to add in here that kind of show past histories in the higher time frames to see where the last highs and lows have kind of been and where they're at. So ultimately, what you're looking at here is this is a 5x MA multiplier that's on this chart here. So when you look at the green, anything under the green, and I've seen other ones where they fill it in and highlight it in and makes it look pretty, but ultimately anything under the green should be where you're accumulating and you're buying. And then this is the ride, and once you start to get above the red, that's when you start to sell. And this has worked fairly well all throughout, the bull runs of Bitcoin itself. So, and as you can see here, this is 2018. You should have been accumulating. We dipped a little below it and up. A lot of people, again, even myself, we thought this was not going to continue down as far as it did, and we were going to be basically where we're at here, but in this more immediate time frame. But obviously COVID in March happened, but we recovered, but again another accumulation and then a move up. So we touched the red lines but never got above it. So according to this model, you should not have started to take profits as it went up, and in previous years you can see that it went up a lot over the model, and you can look at overall where this would have gone in the past as well. So again, all these charts does not dictate that anything is going to be the same at all. These are just, you're using past numbers and some algorithms to analyze and see what's the potential and where it could possibly go. So that's the Bitcoin Investor tool. And again, it's a 5x MA multiplier. So you're just using your MAs, and it kind of is giving you an idea of where to accumulate and where to sell. If we look at the Pure multiplier, multiple down below, this is an interesting one that I don't personally use, but again, it can show you, again, accumulation side and sell side. And so it matches up pretty well when you look at any of these peaks and troughs. And once you start to get above the 4, you should start to look at to take profits. And then in the green itself, as you're riding in the green, that's your accumulation zone. That's where you should buy. Right now, obviously, you can see we never got close in the when we had the run to 14. Our current run, we still had a lot of room to move if it's a bull run like we've seen in the past, right? And I know it's kind of crazy to think about. I mean, we hit 64K as a high, and we've done some ridiculous moves, but it's nowhere near what's gone in the past. So we're also still above the accumulation zone in this model as well. So we're just kind of in a no man's land, which, I mean, coincides here, and with everything else we look at, is going to basically kind of be a, depending on where you're at, if you're doing margin, there's some decent setups, but if you're just spot and hold, that's kind of where we're sitting, is looking to see what's going to come out in the future here, kind of following the trends. So I'm going to take that off here because, again, it's showing the similar stuff. And these metrics, they take different things into consideration, and different factors, whether it's liquidity, volume, moving averages, and they use them in different factors. So, but one of the things that we definitely see is a confluence of those. And there's an interesting one that we'll see here. So this is bullish side on these larger time frames here. So I'm going to take these both off. We'll get a little bit bigger of a chart here. Golden ratio one. This is an interesting one. This one is kind of bullish but potentially bearish-ish. So if you look in the past, we've reached the golden zones on both of these, but what I've noticed is each one is a little bit shorter. The next one, that'd be bull run, we hit blue. The next one is the purple, right? So maybe this is the last one. Maybe the next, top out here would be the red if it moves into that direction, which right now is sitting at 56K. We'll see that there's some other factors there, but this is an interesting one of just a flow of the on the higher time frames. So I'm going to go to a different chart to look at a different higher time frame, because this one's going to be our bearish one here, unfortunately. And there's a lot of these that are, the majority are bullish, but there are definitely some bearish indicators that go through. So again, none of this is, let me go to, actually, I can just keep this one here. We'll just go on the weekly. So if we look at your normal blow off tops, and this is on the weekly, you can see, obviously this is 2013. A lot of people say, this is like 2013, and I don't see that either. They want to believe that this big dip is going to be like this big dip, and it's going to run up to a gajillion. I'm still bullish, but this doesn't look anything like this. This is completely different than what we've seen in the past of these blow off tops that have came through, right? So these are, this is a ridiculous run of just green weeks. Ridiculous run here, one red week and the rest is green. We had great runs up, but nothing like we see here. None of this blow off top where it's just FOMOing in, lots of people coming in. And part of that, I think, is potentially the fact that we're having a different clientele that's moving, this price up. When you look at the $36,000, it takes a lot to move when you're at 60,000. If we go any higher, $80,000, $100,000, it takes a lot of money to move that price up. So you're getting a different clientele that's moving this. This is retail. Retail can move this up. Obviously, retail can move this up a lot. Especially when the supply back here is so much lower than what it currently is now. So you're getting a higher price, a higher supply. So could it be different? 100% could be different. We could be seeing a completely different trend metrics of how this is going to flow, and some people think this could be the super cycle, where, we have some of these dips, but we're not going to see a 2-year-long, crypto winter that we've seen in the past. From highs to highs, it took 4 years. Highs to highs, took 4 years, right? And you're down to be able to hit those. So I don't know. I mean, again, we went from highs to highs. We just broke all-time high. So for me, I don't believe that this short of a move in this short of a time frame is going to be the end all. So um, I still think we have some moves left. If we look at, I am going to go into this one because I have some different sides to it that we can use. As you can see, I just had some of your larger parabolic moves that are potential that would come through on this. If we look at, let's look at EMAs first off. So we're on the weekly. Let's just go to the daily to start off with. We've gone below the 200, which is usually the death. When you see that, it's like, oh, you're below 200. That's no good, right? 2015, again, we were already in a bear market below it. So coming up and going down below, that's not too big of a deal. But when you're going parabolic and you're moving through and then you come below this, so this is a key that we have to watch, is regaining these MAs. And as we look a little bit closer on the lower time frames, we'll get to kind of see different targets that come into play. So obviously I like the Ichi cloud. Ichi cloud obviously on the daily is bearish. I should actually, let me back up a little bit, because again, if we're longer term holders here, we want to look and see what does our MAs look like here. So on the weekly, right, we're looking at the 50 MA, which great. If we look at a movement in any kind of bullish scenario, we've definitely hit the 20 MA, but never really closed below it unless it was unless we were kind of moving into more of a bear market, as history has seen in the past, right? So right now we're below that. We'd want to see that reclaimed and then a move higher, obviously, which would move us higher in a continuation. But losing any of these other MAs is going to be a pretty detrimental in the terms of Bitcoin for a longer or for a short-term bull continuation. So this is what a lot of people talk about now, is this head and shoulders pattern right here. So you got your left shoulder, got your head, you got your right shoulder here, which it's a little short. It's on the same path, pretty quick. Could definitely be it. I would be more apt to see it, kind of along this trend line, hit again, and then get tapped out. But the overall move on that would be pretty devastating. It would be a retest of that all-time high in this area here down to the 20. I think I just saw today like Goldman is calling for 24K, which put you in this range right here. In history's past, I don't think that Goldman has ever called anything correctly, and they just seem to be wanting to move, tell everybody the opposite direction that something's going. So that's more of a bullish tweet that I saw from them anyway. But that's the head and shoulders pattern. We had a lower time frame one that played out already, which I posted. Actually, I think those are the videos I did not post, but you had the shoulder, head, shoulder this way, and this was the completion of that. So again, potentially moving down there, but it's not there yet. And on the weekly, with the MAs, we are definitely in the positive. We're still bullish. We're still above that 50. That's a big one. And Ichi Cloud is similar, right? So we never like to see these lost, your baseline and your conversion line. Again, they're a type of MA in a sense, but they haven't crossed for one, which is huge. You can still regain that, be completely bullish moving forward. We're above the cloud. It's nice to move closer to the cloud. It gives you this, if we stay on this trend of this parabolic trend line here, it keeps it all in a better perspective. We're not too extended like we are here away from the cloud. It's a huge extension away from the cloud. In 2018, obviously, you didn't get this extension until probably midway through, obviously at the end when we pulled back. So weekly, we're definitely still bullish. Now, as we go down on the lower time frames, that's where we start to see some of the bearish stuff. So I'm going to do some more on the bearish side, and then we'll look at kind of what I think we're we're hoping to play out here. So I got a few more minutes here. We're below everything. So, and we're red on the cloud. This is bearish, right? You should not be looking to. There's no signal here to get back in on the cloud on the daily. This is, you want to wait until the the baseline and the conversion line cross to give you kind of that connection. There is one trade of a this twist in this flat area up in the cloud, which is a potential for it to reach up to. Is definitely something that it could do. Also, this gap, again, as you see in these gaps, we like to come back and kind of move towards each other. The price wants to move that direction. So, or the cloud wants to move that direction one way or the other. They're going to come together at some point in time. So that's a potential, if you're risky enough, you could want to trade that. And if we look at our MAs, our moving averages, we're below the 200. It's just bearish. Like, there's nothing to say about that. We got to regain that before you really want to do any kind of, like, if you're not in, you could start to DCA into it and then really kind of push forward once we start to regain these MAs. And that could be a good possibility. So the big one that I want to show over here, which was that have looked at this as a key indicator of sell points, right? Of basically, it's almost plucked the highs in the past every single time, if you can look at it. So when this crosses on these higher time frames, or on the daily time frame, weekly doesn't work as much, but you can see the cross in here, like it sniped the top in 2013. And if you're, it doesn't really tell you when to get in here. Like, a lot of these crosses don't tell the best on to get in, but you can see again here, it is like sniping the top like incredibly well. So the Pi cycle top here is what it's called, the Pi cycle, but it's Pi cycle top. And then we look at 2018. Again, I mean, it's picking that top almost exactly. It's ridiculous. And so what do we have here? Well, we had a potential cross in that same sense of almost picking that top to a T. So this is pretty bearish when you're looking at that. But again, if we're looking at 2013, it did the same thing and then ripped back up. So this is pretty bearish. I don't use this at all. I should probably put it into the cycle to be able to kind of look at shorting some stuff. It would have definitely helped, but I didn't see it until later. So it's one of those that is an interesting one, and I'll probably start to use it a little bit more in the future. And this can also be kind of shown. This is more bullish than bearish. If you look at the stock to flow, people love this one. So ultimately, we're still in the yellow when it comes down to it, below the line, right? And so in terms of 2013-14, we would kind of be in this October time frame to then move up to your high level, which ultimately would put you over 100,000. If it did the same move, you're earlier kind of get your 250 to 300 grand, which sure, I'll take it. We're just going to see. I think a lot of these models, they can't predict things all the time, right? And there's going to be change in the future of when these are potentially going to maybe not work, right? So they've been pretty good in the future, or in the past. We'll just have to see where they come into play now. So if I look at my short terms and what I'm looking to do for myself, I obviously I'm in some longs currently. I think Ethereum, Doge, a little bit of BTC. When I got into this, I posted this inverse head and shoulders, looking to get into these targets here. These were the buy targets. And so currently looking at wanting to take some profit on these. Yeah, there we go. So top of the cloud, I'm waiting for this to confirm, and I'll add more to it once we get into the cloud here for a edge-to-edge trade. At the top here at the 45-ish mark, there's some. You could get a burst above it and up into the 48K, but really we'll probably see a pretty big stop here. It's a pretty big resistance right at that 45K mark. So what does that mean going forward for me? Again, I'm in crypto, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, and unless somebody can tell me otherwise, or show me actual like bearish scenarios, right? But making sure that I have cash on the sidelines is going to be a big one for me going forward. So a lot of the longs and shorts that I do, I'll just be leaving in cash and not buying directly back in until I see more confirmation that we are going to be going to the bull side. So I'm kind of in a bit of a just making money on longs and shorts. If we look at the Ichi Cloud on the daily here again, for me, remember this is the 45 mark that I think we get an edge to edge, which brings us right to the bottom of the cloud. Right, that's a great trademark. You could potentially see the 46, 49. And at this point, as we move further into June, we may get ourselves another edge to edge on the daily and moving out into that direction. So for me to be fully bullish on this, I want to see the daily turn back in all bull direction. So in this trend line here, this yellow trend line moving up is my next key as well. So this one fails, we're going down. It's just, and you can see here I have some liquidity levels marked 24, 19, 12. I don't really see 12 coming into play, but who knows? I didn't see this coming into play. Well, we kind of did. I just didn't trade it, right? So too euphoric. So right now I'm in some longs, looking at 45 as the next big exit point for me. I'm in my margin longs. I'll still be spot. I'll have to decide here and what the time frame is and where my long-term capital gains is at once we get to this trend line. If we are getting bearish and we start to break down from there, you can see the cloud's going to start to turn. Let me get this here. It'll start to turn a little bit like this and kind of move this way as we go that way. So remember, the cloud can act as resistance or just kind of like a guideline, and it'll move with it. So what we might see is this move up and this kind of move down, and what we would like to see is a move into the cloud and up above the cloud to move on to infinity. Otherwise, we might see the opposite of this moves up and then follows the cloud, comes here. Once we break down, that's your signal of we might get a little test pump of that. Once we get to that test pump to the top of that trend line, that's your short opportunity or exit opportunity if you're not wanting to be in it, and then your buy zones. So I got to get going. Ask me questions of other things that you want to see, but that's kind of where I'm playing it, where I'm looking at it. So, all right, man. Everybody, I'll see you later. Take care.